This episode of the Love Looks Like This project touches on coming out as a queer church member, the experience of being queer in a religious setting, and does include photos of a snake. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Love Looks Like This project. My name is Sarah Margaret, and I'm a 27-year-old empowerment artist out of Delaware, and my favorite piece of jewelry, I mean, I gotta say earrings, I used to have like an extra one here, but it closed up because I did it at a crappy place.
Boo.
So I need to do it at like a not crappy place, so like, I always have to have...
Lame.
Okay, put earrings. I always have to have cool earrings.
I also just want you to know, I'm gonna make so many like direct-to-camera, like, ladies and gentlemen.
We can tell who
Breaking news.
watches YouTube based on just cutaways like to the camera.
Don't expose me like that. Jesus Christ. I should have been a YouTuber. I'm just gonna say it. I should have been a
This
streamer.
is launching your career.
I'm gonna be a Twitch streamer, guys. I'm telling you right now.
You're getting that PS5, so
Yeah, it's
time.
It's happening.
It's time.
I'm Erin. I am a recruiter currently for my job. Lovely corporate hellscape, but it pays my bills, so that's what's important right now. I'm 27.
This is like two 27s in a row, like you and Kelly are saying, so.
Yeah. I'm not crying, by the way. My eyes are just watering because I put my contacts in like 5 minutes ago.
My brand.
I'm 27. It's just, sorry.
27's been a weird age for me though, like, cause I'm like 26 is like, mid 20s, but 27 is like
I'm dangerously
30.
close to 30. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not a fan of this.
So 27 was a weird.
Yeah, mostly because there were a lot of goals that I really thought I would have down by 30, and now I'm like, that is not even remotely close to happening. No way.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to tell people that I was going to have all my student loans paid off by the time I was 30.
Hilarious. And what's your favorite jewelry location?
Probably my bar, my little industrial bar that I have on my ear. I don't know. That one's always consistent. Like, I remember from the jump, I was like, I want one of those because they look cool as
Yeah.
And it also weirdly, it simultaneously hurt more, but also less than I was expecting it to, which is a weird thing to say out loud. But it was like, not to gross people out, it was mostly like the audible crunch of when it went through like the top cartilage. Awesome. That really, you can edit that out.
For this, I was like, it didn't hurt like the needle. What hurt was the dude shoving it in and wiggling it around.
Yeah, like the piercing itself didn't hurt at all. And and this actually healed like pretty easily too. I also really like my bar because I always like to talk about the story of like, I used to work at a Chick-fil-A at the time when I got this, and they had rules about like, you can't have like alternative kind of piercing beyond like your earlobes.
To gay.
Yeah, you'd be too evil.
Too close
whatever.
To gay.
And I remember I got it like a couple weeks before I was supposed to go back like home for the summer, and I was going to be working there, and I thought I had did the math correctly so that it would be, because it's like you have to keep it in without taking it out at all for like the first 4 weeks or whatever it is. And I thought I did the math correctly, that I'd be able to like take it out at least for my shifts by the time, and then I missed it by like a week. I wasn't a math major, FYI. So I got to work and I was like, hey, like, I'm really sorry, like I did the math wrong, like I have to keep this in like for a couple more days. It was like 3 or 4 days maybe, like while I was working there before I would be able to take it out for my shifts. And one of the managers there, who was like the same age as me, mind you, so it made it like weirder. He was like, no, you have to take it out because that's against the handbook. And I was like, Chris, if I take it out, it's gonna get infected and then it's gonna get like up, and I'm not doing that. Like I was like, I'm not doing this in like Greece City, USA with the fryers. Like, no, that's disgusting. And he was like, well, you have to take it out. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. And so his proposed solution was, well, if you're not going to take it out, you need to put a Band-Aid over it. And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, you really think that people are going to ask less questions when they see me at the register with a giant Band-Aid over my entire ear than if I just let it hang out? And he was like, that's the rule. It was so stupid.
Because it's not like just like it's a little, like it's like your whole...
I would have to cover my whole ear. Like,
I mean, Donald Trump took it from you. Like, that's like before.
Trendsetter. Yeah, I literally, it was so dumb. So it was literally like, I would wear like a Band-Aid on my ear for like the 2 hours.
Did you do it?
I did for like the 2 hours of like that our shifts overlap. Because I was always like a nighttime like a closer, and he was more on like the opening team. The morning openers are always the ones that are like sticks up their I gotta be honest. At least they were there. So I would come in at like I don't know, like 11, and he would be leaving at like 1. So like for the couple of hours that our shifts overlapped, I had to do it so that he didn't get like his panties in a twist. But then as soon as he left at 1, I'd be like, all right, and the actual manager Travis would be like, I don't give a f-. I was like, thank you, Travis, you're a real one.
Thanks, Travis.
Yeah. So yeah, my bar is probably my favorite. That was a very long-winded way to say that, but strap in, because that's how all my answers are gonna be.
Okay.
I love to yap.
We do be yapping. So your job is recruiter. Mm-hmm. If you could describe yourself in a way that is not tied to your profession,
oh yeah,
what would you say?
Artist, creative, definitely. I went to school for art education, as you know. Currently am in a corporate job because I had a lovely quarter life crisis and decided that I don't really think I want to teach like in a K through 12 setting anymore. Right when I was like about to graduate with a degree in it. So that was fun. So recruiting is kind of like a weird like in between career that I've stepped into for now. But outside of that, obviously, I'm an illustrator. I've done many a thing for this lovely friend here.
That rockin' logo we've got here.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, let's talk about that. Yeah. I'm so excited to talk about that. But yeah, artist and creative, definitely. That's like what I do just sort of in my spare time. I'm trying to think how else I would like describe myself, because usually art is just like the thing that I kind of default to. I love like movies and like consuming media. Like I'm a huge I like just being told a good story. It's like I love movies, I love cinema, I love that whole like entertainment world. I love animals. We have a dog, our German Shepherd Ari, who's my baby girl. Shout out to Ari if you're watching this. She's not, but if she was.
She was. The shout out has been made.
Yeah. I'm probably relevant in mentioning that I'm getting married in like less than 50 days. Yep. So there's that.
And we'll be there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also a huge music fan. That's probably the other biggest thing.
Yeah. And the two things you put in your application.
Oh.
A gay and a
yeah. I was like, what did I put? I have the memory of a goldfish.
Yeah, I just like read the huge paragraph you put in there, and I was like, we'll just probably talk about that. So.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah. Also that queer Christian. I've been in the church basically my whole life. Like my mom likes to say that I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 3, and I was like, I don't know if that really counts because I don't remember that. Like, but I've still like very much been in the church my whole life, and I like the way I always explain it to people is like I still like I show up for God, not for the people in the building necessarily. So I'm very aware that obviously the church is like really up and has done a lot of things that are not okay to a lot of people groups over the years. And I do my best to like attend churches that at least are like recognizing that and aware of that and are like not, delusional and thinking that like they're like martyrs and all that stupid. But how much am I allowed to swear on this, by the way?
Oh, go for it.
Okay, I was like, I mean, it's already too late.
We're already in.
I didn't think about this. But yeah, so been in the church for a while, and it's definitely interesting having to kind of reckon that side of me with the I like girls and guys at the same time side of me. So that's been interesting. And I just fully came out as bi in, was it October? It was either September or October this past year.
October's what you said in the application.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. There
October 2023.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's been almost a year at this point, which is...
Yeah, that's weird to think about. Yeah. And it's wild because I don't know what I was thinking. Like initially when I like made the decision that I was going to do it and like fully come out, I was like, okay, this is the culmination of everything. This is like the final step. Like once I do this, it's like, woo, we're done.
Yeah.
And then I was like, never mind. That's just like the start of season 2, basically.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, never mind. It just made things more interesting is really what it did. I mean, it was very like healing also to do that. But yeah, sure. It was wild. I don't know why I was thinking like, coming out is like the last step.
Especially because your coming out post was like a challenge to people, essentially.
It was.
I remember specifically, it was like, if you didn't know this already, there's a reason for that, which like opened up the Pandora's box of...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Super fun.
Yeah.
First 3 words that pop into your head, trying not to think about it too much. When I ask you about your body, what are those 3 words?
The first thing that came to my mind, I'm not even kidding, was hot.
I mean, I've been saying it for however many photo shoots we've been doing.
I would also say eyes, because that's one of my favorite features about myself. And then third thing that comes to mind, oh God, that's hard. Probably average.
Before you said average, I'm like, those are like the biblically accurate angels. Like hot and eyes.
Eyes.
Not even like nice eyes, just like eyes.
God.
Like the noun. Kind of explain a little bit more average, like what that word is
Yeah,
for you.
I like, so it's interesting because, so I very much come from a place where like, and I know that I'm very lucky and privileged to be in this space. I never have really struggled with like body dysmorphia or really having a ton of issues with my body as it is. Like even when I was like a teenager, I think part of it is because like, I think generally, like I'll say when we generally were teenagers, I think that was really kind of the start of the kind of cultural shift of like, you know, everybody is okay a little bit, you know, it's definitely like, I mean, it's, you know, slow and steady and it's still progressing a lot. But I think like, cause I hear about stuff like, you know, women that grew up in the 90s that were like, that like when diet culture was like, such a huge thing.
We hit the tail end of that with tabloid culture, which is what I talked about with Kelly too.
Yes, and now I think it's definitely shifted, particularly just in the years that we were like teens into young adults and stuff, where like you're seeing stuff like the Dove campaigns and like the Aerie campaigns that are very big on like, you know,
there's no makeup on these. There's no
like
Photoshop on these.
Yeah, which those campaigns sometimes are, you know, kind of problematic for different reasons, but still it's like there's a long ways to go, but it's still very like, you know, you see stuff like people pushing campaigns that are like, hey, all skin tones are cool, all body shapes are cool, like we're not like, that's, you know, that's very much kind of just like a cultural shift that I think we grew up in like a very key developmental time. So I think because of a lot of that is, I think that's part of why I personally never really have had like issues with my body. The only thing is like sometimes I have had like feelings of like I wish I was like maybe just like slightly more like filled out here or like whatever, but it's never in a way that's like I hate what I currently have. It's honestly like sometimes I'll just look at myself and be like mid. But like but like it's weird, like it's never been in a way that it's like I'm like distressed about it or like hateful to myself about it. It's just like, yeah, I'm pretty standard, pretty nothing crazy going on here, like and for better or for worse, you know.
And I know you've been working out more, and that's been a big thing for you too.
I have not. I stopped yet.
Well, excellent.
I gave it a good college try. I just realized I really don't like being at a gym with other people because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't want to look like a dumb who's like staring at the weight machine like
yeah. Well, and also like with gyms I feel like there's like this current siege barrage of everyone who's a gym influencer, and there's cameras all over the
and that's
place.
like I hate that. I don't want to get sucked into that. So the reason I was working out for a while really it wasn't to lose weight or anything like that. It was literally just because for a while I was like really on this kick of like, I want to have guns. I just wanted to like build muscle. And I was going to the gym pretty regularly for about a year, and I'll be honest, I didn't see so I don't know if it was just me doing it wrong, highly likely, or whatever. But so I was just sort of like, okay, like maybe this isn't necessarily, and then I also just sort of stopped fixating on like I need to be more muscular for a minute. So I was like, okay, whatever. So now I just have like, now my focus is more like I just want to keep myself like healthy, which is also something that I joke about this all the time. I'm like, I truly have never really paid attention to my weight, hardly at all. The only time that I really care about my weight is if it's to the point where I'm at risk of having to buy all new pairs of jeans, because I don't have the money to buy like 10 pairs of jeans at once. Yeah, exactly. So like I've been very lucky in that way that I've never been very I've never dealt with a lot of that, like just fear or like anxiety or just dissatisfaction with like my weight or my shape in particular. The biggest thing is like I have been very self-conscious about like my skin because I've struggled with acne for a really long time. Like I thought that was something that went away when you became an 18-year-old adult.
No.
It gets worse.
It gets worse.
It gets worse. I hate to tell you this. It gets worse.
It gets worse.
Especially if you're on birth control.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
So I've been, that's kind of really the only, like, I would say major, like, body insecurity that I've had in my life has been, like, my face skin and like my acne, but otherwise like I've been very lucky, I think, just being raised in an environment where like diet culture and like this need to be like, you know, conventionally attractive or skinny or whatever was never really pushed on me like that. You know, like I would hear my mom make comments about herself that she was like, you know, would be like implying that she's like super overweight, and I'm like, you were the same size, shut the up. Like, Kim, relax.
Kim.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
So how would you describe your current relationship with your body, and how does that compare to your historical relationship with your body, which you kind of just went over a little bit?
Yeah. I think, if anything, I think really like comparing where I was to where I am now, I've definitely learned to become a lot more confident in myself these days. And I think part of that like has just been kind of like a large part of it has been just kind of more embracing my identity as like a queer woman, for one, is definitely huge. And also just sort of like, I really like, as I've gotten older, I've truly just kind of stopped giving a about like comparing myself to other people.
So much energy. Then,
it does, like, and I'm like, oh girl, I don't got time for this.
Yeah.
Like, I just like, I kind of just stopped like caring like what other people thought, and like I stopped getting sucked into like the comparison of like, oh, I wish I looked like, I honestly can't tell you the last time I can remember at all that I like saw a picture of like another woman in particular and was like, oh, I wish I looked like that. I don't know. I kind of let that go, like that whole mindset, because I'm like, it's not serving me. It's not healthy for me to be like thinking this way.
Yeah.
Because that's not gonna I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow and look like Charlize Theron. Like it's not how that works. So there's no point. I just gotta roll with what I got, and I'm happy with what I got, and just kind of learning to be content there has been like really,
been really good. Do you think queerness has impacted that relationship, like even like before and after coming out, if there was a difference?
Probably just embracing like, yeah, no, water is wet. Like we kind of figured, Erin, with your shortest hair and your multiple piercings and tattoos and generally just fairly alternative vibe. Oh my God, Erin likes girls. Jesus Christ! Like,
I think when I came out to people, like people that I was close to, like before I came out, like online and everything, I sent them photos of me in college, like specifically the people I was friends with in college. I was like, how did you let me walk around like this thinking I was straight?
Real, honestly, real. When I was coming out to like certain people in my family that were like obviously more like taken aback by it, I fully think that was kind of subconsciously just them almost like not wanting to entertain that thought. Cause again, I'm like, girl, also, to be fair, if you pay attention to anything I've been posting on any of my social medias for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, like, I talk about Cate Blanchett way too much. Like, guys, like,
This is more than just a typical Lord of the Rings fan. I almost said Star Wars. That's incorrect. Has she made her way on in there?
No.
No, not yet.
I honestly would prefer her to stay away. I love Star Wars. Let's not... Haters, leave me alone. I like Star Wars. I just like Cate Blanchett more, and I want her to do... I was about to say I want her to do cool movies, and I was like, no. Can't say that. Anyway. But yeah, I just sort of, it, like, to me, it was one of those, like, yeah, water is wet. So part of it, I think, was, like, coming out and embracing my own queerness was, like, not having to sit here and be, like, because I was always very aware, even, like, before I realized that I was, like, actually bi, that I looked gay as just in my general, like, demeanor.
Rock on.
And so I think, like, coming out and embracing that was really just, if anything, it just kind of gave me like a little bit more of a boost to not quite feel as nervous about like, oh, like if I'm showing up to like an event at church, like am I dressed like too gay? Is that gonna be it kind of doesn't make sense unless you've been in that scenario. You're like, what do you mean, are you dressed too gay? Like, I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's very, yeah.
Yeah, we went to a wedding of someone we went to school with when we met at Jesus University, and most of the people there were going to be from Jesus University, and I specifically looked around at my pantsuits, and I was like, which one is the most gay? Because I want to be a... Oh,
yeah, and see, that's the thing, and that's where it's flipped, is now I'm like, oh, now I want to be, like, aggressive aggressively homosexual
Yes.
in the way that I dress always.
Yes.
Like,
I was not allowed to wear the pin that had a bird on it that says I poop on racist. That was vetoed.
I just got a pin the other week. Alex and I went to Albany, and I got a pin up there that is a crocodile, and it says "Eat racists." And I was like,
Perf.
This is getting added to my jacket.
Love it.
Yeah. It's also, I will say, another small note that's been very fun for me, and this is just truly me, like, with people, because I've been introducing Alex to people and referring to him as my partner for, like, years, because I just feel like boyfriend sounds like...
boyfriend.
Yeah. Like, and especially, like, before we were engaged and stuff. So I would always say my partner, Alex, and because Alex is also a gender-neutral name, it was so funny to me every time to kind of watch people, like... like, what's that lady who's doing, like, the math or whatever, that meme? Like, I would always be like, yeah, me and my partner Alex, and then just wait and kind of watch them, like, go through that, like, internal, like, I could see the gears turning sometimes, and it was so funny to me.
My friends from Jesus School University, I didn't even know I did this. I did it because this was before I was aware that I was queer. I just... Again, boyfriend felt like, it's me, boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, it felt, like, more serious than that, so I would refer to him as my partner. And my friend, who I am, like, now really good friends with, was like, I thought you were a lesbian for a very long time, and then I met Justin, and I was like, oh.
You know what else is real? So one of my best friends, who I've been friends with since high school, who is a lesbian, people, apparently, I didn't find this out until I think a couple years after, but apparently when we were in high school, people thought we were dating, which is funny because I was actually extremely homophobic in high school because of the way I was raised. So I was like, what a plot twist. The turntables have turned. I mean... Yeah.
So, and I feel like with me personally... like, embracing the queerness, like, it's opened me up to different representation. It's like, oh, by queer standards, I am really cute. But, like, as a typical, like, long-haired, gorgeous lady, like, we ain't that. But I feel like there's just so much more bodies that feel comfortable being in those bodies in queer spaces than there are in heteronormative spaces.
And being in that, like, in between too, to be honest, because I feel like one of the other things that I've noticed a shift towards, I'll say generally, but I know specifically, like, you know, I run in very queer circles, so it makes sense. I think, like, folks that are sort of in, like, the non-binary space, you know, or, like, just gender non-conforming space in general are, like, slowly kind of being more accepted as well. Again, we still got a long way to go there, but it's definitely better than it used to be. So I think that's also an interesting facet of it, is it's, like, it kind of doesn't matter, like, how I present, because how I present ultimately has nothing to do with how queer I am as an individual. Like, they're not, you know, intrinsically connected things. So it's also, I think that has also been, like, its own piece of it, where it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna dress how I want. Yeah. Like, I used to joke also all the time that, like, I can go from, like, especially when I was younger, and I would do this more often, where I'd wear, like, a full face of makeup, have, like, the most dramatic, like, jewelry on known to man, and I would have people, when I was like 18 and doing that, assume that I was like a 25-year-old lady. And then, like, the next day I'd show up to work in, like, an oversized hoodie, no makeup, my beanie, my glasses, and people would literally think I was like a 13-year-old boy. And I was like, dichotomy of man. Like,
so true, bestie.
Yeah. And it's like, it's been interesting because I'm like, I enjoy both of those, to be honest. Like, I've been trying to push myself more. Like, I want to start shopping in, like, the men's section a little bit more, just mostly because they have better pants than we do, to be honest. And I've figured out that I can fit into some of Alex's jeans. The ones that are too short for him fit me, like, perfect. So I'm like, I want to start buying, like, I want to stop, like, automatically limiting myself to, like, the women's section, you know? Like, but then at the same time, like, I'm still very, like, I'm still, like, a cis woman. I don't feel any compulsion to be like, maybe I'm non-binary, maybe I'm trans. It's just that freedom of, like, I can just do whatever I want. Yeah. Like, I don't have to be a certain level of queer to be able to access, like, this type of expression of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It does make sense. And I've gotten to the point where, like, my wedding clients all know that I'm queer. And one of them was like, wait, what pronouns do you go by? And I'm like, no, they're still she, her. I just like to not, I like to dress like a non-binary person, but I still feel very feminine.
Yeah.
And I can't really shop in the bro section because I put them away. But I love boobies and big
bazongas.
Bazongas. And like big hips and like the curviness.
Yeah.
But I would love to throw on a pair of boy jeans. And I feel like there's so much space in this. Like you could store like secret snacks in there. Like just like throw a...
It's not for it's for secret snacks. That's what that hole in their boxers is for.
Yeah.
It's not for it's for, there's a snack pouch that's, if you didn't know this, breaking news.
Also, like, for those, like with the hole there, like, do guys actually, like, instead of, like, pulling them down, like, just wheedle it on through? Like,
I don't understand that
like
either. I guess they do.
Thing?
Like, I guess they do. But
like,
to me, I'm like, that feels like just as much effort as just kind of, like, pulling them down a little bit.
No, that feels like more effort. And like, also, like, super weird. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like, you know, like, when you're dressed and you feel more exposed than you do, like, when you're just totally naked?
Yeah,
I feel like somehow... Like how you feel even more naked when you just have socks on and like nothing else.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely weird. That's a phenomenon I don't understand.
People with ding dongs, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, are there comments? Are there going to be comments?
I guess. Why not? Just let the people speak.
That's opening a Pandora's box right there.
It is indeed. So on the continuum of me versus my body to my body is a part of me, how do you perceive your relationship with your body?
I mean, I think my body is a part of me. Because like I said, I'm very privileged in the sense that I definitely don't think I've come from a perspective of like, I am fighting my body too much ever. So I definitely just kind of accepted that it's like a part of me. And I'm just like, hey, this is what I got. This is what we're working with. I'm going to choose to just like not beat myself up about something that I can't really control, which is wild as somebody who has rampant anxiety about many other things.
Yep.
The fact that I don't have crazy anxiety about my physical body is nuts. Yeah.
So what was the first moment you remember feeling like some external force was playing a part in the way you perceived your own body?
That's crazy. Oh my God. Honestly, I think part of it... Wait, say that again.
Yeah, so like the first moment where you feel like some force other than yourself, whether it be like stuff you saw on the news or like people in your personal life, or like whether they overtly said it to you, whether you just picked up on it intrinsically, that it impacted the way you saw your own body.
Ooh. I think probably like... The first thing would probably just be like just within my own family. I mean, because like I kind of said, like my mom and like my grandmother and I think most of the other women in my family, like one of those things where it's like, you know, I would just hear them from time to time make comments about like, I used to look like that 20 years ago, or like I can't wear something like that out because it would, you know, hug in all the wrong places or whatever. You know, like those types of comments that I think a lot of women tend to just make about themselves, especially women from older generations, let's be real. So I think like, I definitely grew up around, I would say, a decent amount of that. I just think like, I don't know, I guess somehow I was just like, I was like lucid. Like I was just like aware from the jump that I was like, this doesn't seem like the way that I should be talking about myself. And honestly, part of it like even weirdly connect back to like the spirituality for me because like I grew up in a church where more or less the way that like God was always described to me, like the whole idea of like, you know, we're made in God's image and all of that stuff. So being raised in a church environment like that, and then juxtaposing that with hearing people in my life make like not deranged comments about their
derogatory.
Yeah, that's the word I was thinking. Thank you.
See, deranged comments. Something. I got that English degree.
There you go. Seeing people make those like derogatory comments about their body, and I would sit there and be like, but like if this is like how God made me, and like the whole like I'm made in God's image, like why would I be insulting my body like that. Like, that was kind of also like a weird, and I think that's honestly part of why, like, I was able to sort of deflect a lot of that from a young age, was just because I grew up in that space, and it was just, and a lot of the whole rhetoric that I heard growing up was like, you know, Jesus loves you just as you are, like, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. So I think that ultimately did actually kind of play like a positive role in that for me as well.
I've never heard. I'm very excited to hear that a religious space made you feel better about your
which is wild, because
amazing.
Especially as like a queer person too, because I think a lot of the times and it's like, don't get me wrong, I definitely experienced my fair share of hearing things in the church that made me go, wow, that makes me hate myself. But like from the perspective of like my physical body and being content with the way it was made, like that was never something I had an issue with, and I think that is part of why. Which is weird, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that passage was used in a positive way.
That's because I know it's not for a lot of
people.
Yeah, and for context, so the church I grew up in is a Wesleyan church, which is kind of like an offshoot of Methodist, I want to say, if I remember my history correctly.
I won't be able to correct you if that's wrong. So.
No, it's fine. But I say that to say, like, the Wesleyan church still has its issues for me with, like, some of the doctrine and stuff that they preach, but they have historically been very progressive on a couple specific issues, like being okay with women preaching in the church. The whole reason the Wesleyan denomination was formed was because the founder, John Wesley, was very like anti-slavery. And so back in the day when like Methodists and maybe some of the other churches were still like, well, it's still okay to have slaves and like separate, you know, people in the church, and we're cool with like hardcore racism in the church like that. The founder was like, well, no, I think that's actually like a big you to what God actually wants. So I'm just going to go make my own branch where we're not down with slavery here. So like there are a couple things like that the Wesleyan church that I am very, and again, I think that's part of why like in some ways I had a little bit more of like a positive experience, you know, because there are a couple key issues I will give them credit that they have historically been, at least I will say, decently progressive on. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of others that they're still like not up with the times, but you know, like it's better than several other denominations I could have been in. Yeah. Yeah.
What moment in your life had the biggest impact on your relationship with your body?
You know what? Probably like when I sort of realized that I had like a chronic pain issue, switching subjects but a little bit, but to be fair, as much as I've been sitting here saying, like, I don't really have a hateful relationship with my body, and I do get incredibly frustrated as somebody that has, like, chronic back pain constantly. Yeah. Like, I get incredibly frustrated when there are days where it's like, I just want to be able to, like, lay on the couch with my fiance and, like, snuggle after a hard day at work, but, like, after 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, I can't lay in that position anymore, so now I just have to sit here and not, like, stuff like that, you know, gets, like, incredibly taxing, and I think, like, when I realized that this was not like an issue that was going to be like easily fixed, like once it kind of hit me, like, cause I was like, yeah, I've been to like 3 different chiropractors and somehow like nothing helps. And people were like, I don't know that that's a normal experience. And like that realization where I was like, oh no. Yeah. And I kind of just like realize that like this is something that I'm probably just going to be living with like maybe indefinitely. I don't know. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that was probably one of the biggest things that I can think of, because it was just sort of like it was very like defeating, you know, just to sort of know like there are so many things that I'm going to be physically limited in that I can't necessarily do, or if I can't do them the same way or in the same capacity as everybody else. Yeah, no, that's interesting that it's instead related to function rather than form, that those sticky wickets have popped up for you. And when they don't have the easy fixes, and it just feels like doctors aren't listening to you, and it doesn't show up on this thing, and it doesn't, it's like, oh, your vitals look good, like, which is always the chronic illness thing. It's like, well, your vitals look good, you must be fine. Yeah, like I've literally gotten x-rays of my spine done. And the last time I got them done, which was like maybe 2 years ago, I was almost like praying that they came back and were like, oh yeah, your spine's up. Because then that would have at least been like, oh, well, there's probably a surgery that can fix that. Which is terrible that I was like almost wishing surgery on myself, because that's not something that you should ever really be doing. I don't like surgery is not fun. It's a very invasive thing, especially if it's like a spinal surgery. But my x-rays came back and they were like, yeah, your spine's perfect. And I was like, Like,
Yeah.
because it's all muscular for me is what it is.
Damn.
So, and that's like, it reinforces that whole, like, this is not going to be, like, an easy, like, there's nothing really that's going to be an overnight fix for this.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that, because
Yeah.
I've also had that fun little spine x-ray where it's, I have the osteoarthritis, so for me, it's my little bones.
Yeah. Yeah, my bones are solid. It's just everything else that's like, oh, God.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So what makes you feel happiest in your body?
God, these are such open-ended questions. This is really
It's
making
almost
me
like
think.
I want you to talk about yourself.
The thing that makes me happiest about my body? How was it phrased?
What makes you feel happiest in your body?
In your body. Okay.
And it could be a form or a function thing. It's like, oh, when I wear a dress, I feel really good. Or
Yeah,
it could be, oh, when I'm wearing my comfy little sweatshirt, I really like it.
I think probably... I don't know. I think, if anything, I would say maybe just, like... I really like my butt.
Yes!
That feels like a silly answer, but, like, I don't know. Like, I think one of the things that makes me feel happiest is just, like, that I am so okay with my body. I feel like that's a weird way to answer that question.
No,
but,
no,
I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, I like my butt. I like my titties. I like my, like, face. I don't know. Like, you know, like, I think just, like, that, having that kind of just, like, I don't want to say quiet confidence, but, like, just that confidence of just being like, I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah,
You're
excellent.
cool.
Good work. Good work.
Yeah.
I currently have been, just because I've been moving more and, like, drinking a lot less, I have been losing weight. So I always thought I had, like, a really nice, like, juicy butt. And now that I've lost weight,
have you been losing the butt?
I have been losing my butt.
No!
It's worse than that. We've been making loving fun of my sister for a very long time about having a long butt. Like, her butt is, like, long in ways that
Do you have long butts, Sarah?
My butt is long, which... My relationship with my parents has been getting so much better.
Stop.
It's awesome. Dot and I talk about everything. But my father, my sister, and I all drive Mazdas. And so I was going to make us bright pink t-shirts that say Hot Girls Drive Mazdas. And I asked my mom... My mom was like, are you adding that to the t-shirt? And I was like, oh, you got to check Dad. Like, I don't know. Does he have a long butt? If so, then yes, it's going on the back.
That's incredible.
Hot girls drive Mazdas and have long butts.
That's incredible. I love that so much.
So get ready for that photo shoot. And this has been going on for years, well before long legs entered the scene.
Oh my God. Long butt.
Long butt. It's the scene.
The sequel.
Someone get Nick Cage on the phone.
God, call him right now. Where's Megan Monroe? Whatever her name is. Hey, we got a role for you.
Oh boy, howdy, do I have something with your name written all over it.
It's my
What has helped you heal parts of yourself impacted by insecurities? And it feels like you have gone through life without quite as many insecurities as the rest of us have racked up, which is excellent.
Well, that's not true. It's just, I have many insecurities. It's just that most of them don't have to do with my physical form.
Yes. No, I worded that correctly.
I was like, don't you worry. We're up. We're up here.
Yeah. No, I got you.
This is perfect. I was really hoping you were going to ask about, like, a healing moment, because I was specifically saving telling you about this for this podcast. So I came out as bi, like, fully in October. I made, like, a very public, like, social media post about it, because I just sort of hit a point where I was like, particularly in, like, the church that my fiance and I have been going to for 2 years, I was like, I don't want to necessarily be like, feel like I'm walking on eggshells around people all the time. Like, I think I just need to take this step and be fully out and, like, you know, whatever.
Don't have to spend the time having separate lives.
Exactly. Yeah. Which, I'll be honest, we're still kind of working on at the same time. Like, just coming out in itself really doesn't immediately fix that in the way that I thought it did. It really doesn't at all. But anyway, so I came out in October, and, like, honestly, the reaction was just sort of like, insert crickets, like in a weird way. Like it was kind of just, again, I think a lot of it was because people were just sort of, I remember somebody actually specifically commented on my Facebook post and was low-key like, I mean, yeah, like I kind of figured. I was like, God. But I was like, you know what? I'm not mad about it. Like, it was in a nice way. It was a supportive person that said this. I was like, all right, you know what? That's fair. But so like, there really wasn't as much of like a initial reaction, I guess, as I was maybe bracing myself for, like, worst case scenario. Which is fine. Like, it's not like I was sitting there like, dang it. But like, I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is actually kind of how I would prefer, is that it's not really a huge deal necessarily. So fast forward to literally last week. So we have a friend that goes to the same church that we do. And this person is on staff, like, at our church. They're somebody that's on staff. I'm not going to name names. I'm not trying to expose people like this. It wasn't anything bad. But, so this person, like, texted me, like, I think it was, like, Friday morning, and was, like, literally, my phone's in the other room. I was going to be like, I want to read the text correctly to make sure I say it right. It was the most casual, like, hey, like, it was like 11 a.m. It was like, hey, you got some time? Like, I have a question for you. And I was like, okay, and I didn't see this, for like till 3 hours later because I was working. And so I answered this person. I'm like, hey, sorry, like, it's been a busy day. I've been working. Like, what's up? And then like a couple hours later, they tried to give me a call. And at that time, Alex and I were in the middle of like tasting for like our food for our wedding. So I was like, oh, I'm busy. I'm sorry. I'll call you back when I get home. And this person literally goes, hit me up later, nothing crazy, like, so casual. So I'm prepared that I'm going to call this person and they're going to ask me, like, I thought it was going to be like, hey, what, like, do you guys want to come hang out? Like, when are you free? Just the most casual. So I call this person back finally at like 9 p.m. that evening. And with like little to no, like, I don't know, like no forewarning really. Again, I was prepping that this was going to be just like a casual how's the weather conversation. This person essentially starts telling me that they have a couple of friends who are also queer, that I guess the way I understood it was almost like they kind of wanted to invite their friends to like our church, but they were hesitant about doing so because they were aware, like, okay, as queer people, like, I don't necessarily, what they straight up said to me was like, I don't necessarily want to tell my friends this is how it is to be a queer person in our church because I don't know that because I'm not part of the community. And so, but it was wild because this person basically just calls me and it was kind of just like, hey, Erin, how you doing? How do you feel about being gay in our church? And I was like,
okay.
I was like, and like, I wasn't upset or anything. If you're watching, I wasn't upset. It just totally caught me off guard. And for a split second at the beginning, I was like, there's a split second of like panic where I was like, I'm not prepared to like have this conversation, because every other time I've had somebody corner me, for lack of a better term, and ask me about like how it is like in any church space being a queer person, I've always felt this like innate need to like kind of just be on the defensive and be like, okay, I need to prep my answers and answer in a very specific way so I don't piss anybody off or say something that's like too radical or whatever. And so but this time, like, it was almost because I didn't even have any time to think about it. Like, I was just sort of like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you what it is. And so I was just very honest with this person and was just like, you know, like, because I think one of the initial things that they specifically asked was, do you feel welcome in our church? And I was like, I do, but it's complicated is how I answered it. I was like, I do because, you know, I don't, like, it's not like I walk in there every day and I feel people casting dirty looks at me. But at the same time, I was explaining to them, I was like, it is tough though, because even though I am out, like, you still sort of have this innate sort of wariness with like I'll hear people make certain comments like on the side and I'll be like, is that somebody that I'm like safe to talk about? Like, oh yeah, me and my girlfriend that I had one time, without getting like a reaction. I did also fully have somebody in our church once like straight up look me in the eye and say that they didn't want their child to like learn about homosexuality. And I was kind of like, ugh. And that has sort of like I still talk to them in church, but it's a very tricky, it's kind of just like but I always have that in the back of my head. Like, I'm never going to be able to erase that comment from my memory, you know? And it's like, so I was explaining this to this person that's, you know, on church staff, and I was just like, I do feel welcome, because it's not like people are like constantly up here being like, gay people are the devil. But it's also like, you do still have that wariness of like, I don't know how open I can be, you know, without it turning into something weird, or without it turning into like, oh, we have to have a whole conversation of like where you're at on your journey with it, you know, kind of thing. But anyway, all that to say, and then they asked me a couple more questions kind of in a similar fashion, and it was like, but it was like so wild, because this conversation came completely out of left field. I was totally caught off guard. But at the same time, like, that was probably the most, like, healing moment that I've had in such a long time, particularly probably since coming out, for sure. Because it was like, because then at the end, like, I was saying to this person, I was like, I gotta be honest with you, like, I really respect the hell out of you for asking me this and taking that stance of being like, you know what, let me not answer this on behalf, let me go to people that I know.
That's awesome.
That are, and I straight up said to them, I was like, this is exactly what I mean when I'm talking about like how we're looking for representation. It's having a seat at the table, having that opportunity to share your experience for yourself, and not somebody else sharing on your behalf what they think your experience is. So it was like, it was really cool, like, to just like really level with this person like that. And again, it was really significant for me, especially because this is somebody that's on staff at our church. So it was like, it was wild, because I literally was like, we'd be having the conversation and I'd talk, and then like they would be kind of responding, and then I'd just be sitting there, and every once in a while I'd be like, am I hallucinating? Like, what is going on? Like, I was like, is this real? Where are the cameras? Like, I was like, what is... It was like the wildest experience, but it was like really... I almost cried after we hung up, because I was just like, that was so wholesome.
Yes.
Like, in the weirdest way.
Yeah,
like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was wild, but it was really
so cool. Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
And that happened, and then I immediately was like, I have to talk about this with Sarah. When I was like, this is gold. This is content gold.
Yes. Go from where are the cameras to give me the camera.
It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you appreciate about your body?
Specifically, you know what? I appreciate that I've always felt a very strong sense of autonomy with it, I would say, like in my upbringing, because despite like, you know, like sometimes I was saying like I would hear my mom or other like particularly women in my family like make derogatory comments towards themselves about their own bodies. I don't really think I ever had that experience. Like, I never got that from them, you know? And I think one of the things that I always circle back to on this is like when I was younger and like late high school, and I started doing things like cutting my hair really short, and I would dye it like different colors and all this shit, and I started getting tattoos and piercings. Like, I always joke, like my grandmother, who's like very traditional Christian woman, where in her time, like if you had tattoos, it was because you were either a sailor or in a gang or you'd been to prison. Like, that was just her. And I get that it's very hard to snap out of that mentality like overnight. So like when I would start getting tattoos, like initially I'd come home with a new one and she'd kind of give me like the grandma stink eye, you know? But she would never like make any comments that's like, oh, you're never gonna get a man like that, or you know, like any of the like really like overt things that people will do sometimes. So it's interesting because I always have felt like I've had, like, I can do whatever I want. And I say all the time, I'm like, at a certain point, I think my family just very quickly realized, like, it kind of doesn't matter what they say to me. I'm going to do whatever the I want. So, like, so, like, I think, but, like, that's always been respected also. Like, something that I was a little worried about, not overly so, but a little bit, was, like, when I went shopping for my wedding dress, like, last September. And I was, like, you know, it was kind of like a misplaced fear looking back on it, but I did have like a slight fear that like going in with like, you know, my mom in particular, I was like, I really hope I don't end up in a situation where like I try a dress on that I really like and she makes a comment of like, oh, your boobs are too out or whatever, you know. But like, no, she didn't really, like, and it was like, it was really, yeah, it was like, and it was just one of those, like, and then after the fact, I kind of stopped and I was like, why was I even worried about that? Because it's not, she's never done that, like, in the history of, so, like, why would she just now, like, start,
Weddings bring out weird stuff in
They
people.
do, but you know what I mean? It's one of those, like, sometimes I do think I sort of don't give quite enough credit where credit is due to the fact that, like, my family has always pretty much respected my bodily autonomy for what it is. Like, even, I mean, it was, like, for me, it felt very controversial even when I was, like, moving in with Alex before we were married, because we've been living together for a couple years. and I know, like, my parents and my family, were kind of just like, they've always kind of very much taken a stance of like, hey, we don't necessarily agree with that from our Christian perspective in particular, but they were also like, they just kind of let me do my thing. Like, they weren't like calling me up and being like, you need to move out, this is illegal. I know my family has their opinions and there's certain things that they just like, Erin, don't do that. But they're not like, they've just sort of been like, whatever. Like, it's kind of, it's your life. Like, it's your choices to make. Like, for the most part, like, everything's been pretty cool. So I think that, to wrap up the very long-winded answer to this question, the fact that my bodily autonomy has always been more or less, I think, really respected has been very, like, very slay for me.
Very slay. Fantastic. All right, it is photo time. Boopsie is gonna make her grand appearance.
Oh God!
This is like, how many photo shoots?
Boopsie, you're allowed to choke me out if you want. That's okay.
Okay, this isn't a cake shoot. I need to have you sign.
This is not the podcast.
I would need to have you sign some paperwork for that to be. Like, legally, though, like, there are different things you have to do for erotic photo shoots. Like, I would need to have your driver's license on file. I would need to have every name you've ever gone by on file. And, like, you
want my social security number while you're at it?
Basically. But, yeah, so Boopsie will be keeping it PG-13.
Yeah. That's awesome.
What was your favorite part of the session?
My favorite part was definitely the snake.
Yeah.
She was cool. I had a lot of fun with Boopsie. I've never really, like, held a snake like that before, and I felt very cool.
Yeah.
I felt very, like... Cool. I felt very, like, sensual holding the snake, but not in, like, a weird... I'm not a scaly. I want it on record right now, because Kaya specifically, if you watch this, I know you're gonna hit me up. I'm not a scaly. Leave me alone.
No, it's just, like, very powerful because, I mean, like, number one, it gives you Medusa vibes.
Yes.
And then she's also, like, just, again...
She's so cute. She's so beautiful.
Yeah. And it's just, like, a lot of people fear snakes, so it's, like...
Yeah, so it's just a cool, like, challenge to it. Yeah, for sure.
But she's just a little girl. Mm-hmm. She's not...
Just a baby.
She's just a baby. All right.
Yeah.
Photo time.
Oh, I get to look at them
now.
now.
You get to see them.
That's exciting.
All right, that one's Callie's. Again, it's still open. These are too many.
Here's your photos. Kelly's titties.
Kelly's titties.
Oh.
So you start through them.
That header photo one was fire. Oh my God. Look at me. I look like I'm having a spiritual experience in this one with this snake.
Boopsie does that too.
Oh my God. She's so beautiful.
She is a pretty girl.
She's so beautiful. I'm sorry. This was... That's so cool. Oh, that's so sick. Oh, leave me that bloody snake. I love it.
She's a little cutie girl.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. Nice. Oh, I love her. She's so beautiful.
She's a good little girl.
Oh, my titties look great from that angle, too. Nice. I like that her tail is, like, in there.
Yeah, a little twirly.
Let's go. Yeah.
A little twirly girl.
That's so cute.
Her tail does not match, like, the rest of her. I mean,
yeah, it's
exclusively
cool.
tail, but, like...
Yeah. But, she's just thorax, pretty much. But, like... Cute.
Exclusively.
Ooh. Not exclusively. Boopsie, I'm not objectifying you. I just want you to know that. Your mother is.
Yep.
I'm appreciating you respectfully. That one's cool. Wow.
Now we've made it into the Owen Wilson voice. Wow.
I didn't even realize that I did it until you said that, too. That's the worst part. That's just like my default setting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ka-chow.
Don't ka-chow me while I'm looking at my own titties like that. That's disappointing. I look like I'm about to kill somebody there.
Yeah. Like, in a sexy way.
Well, I don't know. We TBD.
Well, Well, you would look sexy while you do it.
I mean,
don't know if the
okay,
killing
that's
method
fair.
would be sexy.
Yeah, that's fair. This is nice with her draped over her shoulder. Wow, these are so cool. I love it. I like that it looks like I have like a wing because you can't see my head, so it just looks like I got like bat wings. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Always.
Gotta get the classic.
Always.
Another.
The titties out and the... Yeah. I love... That's so fun. Wow, that one's really cool. I like that one a lot. Little snake. Wow. She's so pretty. I mean, I'm... that sums up my entire feelings about the experience of being out there with a snake. That's so cool. Also, I gotta be honest, I didn't realize this bra looked that good on me. It looks great.
It's doing
this
the most.
Bra,
I think it's like half a size too small, which means it's like pushing it like up. Yeah.
Maybe on purpose. It's fine. Oh my gosh. Wait, can I see the one where we're like...
Yes.
I was about to say, can I see the one with tongue? And then I was like, that sounds... awful.
Yes, I do have that one.
Just want to reiterate, I'm not a scaly. This is really,
I didn't even know
there's a lot of evidence against me for that at this point, but I'm not, I promise.
Going on record.
Even though I gave the snake a kiss,
I'm not.
Yeah, just a smooch. It was what friends. We're just friends.
Yeah.
They were roommates. It's fine.
Yeah, just gals being pals.
They were roommates. It's okay. Nice.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Her Boopsie trying to desperately escape.
She's like, girls out.
Bye. Oh my god. Love. Just titties. That's just incredible.
Titties.
Noise. Oh. I'm gonna do these.
It's like an airbender moment.
Yeah. Wow. I think these are my favorites, actually.
Yeah.
Like some of the ones, like I love so many of the, ones with the snake, but I really like the ones with the like, the dynamic, like with the sash. Cool. That is so cool. Oh, I feel like a princess.
A pretty princess.
This is a Bridgerton dress, I think.
I
don't watch that show at all.
I don't either, and I did purchase it before Bridgerton was...
Oh, like a thing? Yeah. How long have you had this one? Because I'm like, I haven't seen this one before.
I've had it for a while, but again, I can't take it out very often because it doesn't...
That's fair.
It's inclusive, but not...
But not to a super big extent.
Always.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Lynn wore it for the elopement.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Wow. That one's nice. Sorry. I'm incapable of being serious in real life.
Wow.
The photos, you would look and be like, that girl is like, but it's absolutely not the case at all.
We can last for like 0.3 seconds, which is all I need to get the photo.
Exactly.
And then you're like,
This one's also really cool. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
I like couldn't decide which angle to have it from because they look cool from every angle.
Does. They look great. That's so neat. Oh my god.
And then this one needs a lot of Photoshop for getting rid of stuff, but like you can imagine. Like,
absolutely. Oh, let's go. Let's go. Look at me being acrobatic. Oh, is that the last one? Yeah. I think this is the best of the like reaching ones for sure.
So
that's so cool.
Normally I ask, what is it like seeing yourself in these photos? But typically, it's like the first time they've like seen themselves that way. Like Kelly was like, "Oh my god, I've never seen myself like this." You've seen yourself like this like a couple times.
I'm a professional.
Yeah, you are a professional. If you could say something to 11-year-old Erin, what would you say?
You're hitting me with a classic RuPaul's Drag Race question.
Is it? Oh
yes.
my god, I've never seen it.
This is something like on the show, especially when they get down to like the final like 4 or 5 girls. Every time, and it's also kind of like a meme at the same time because RuPaul every time will pull out like a picture of them when they're like 3 and be like, what would you say to little 5-year-old Tom? And sometimes they're like I'm like, girl, not you airing out their like trauma and like the childhood photo.
I didn't know this
my
was
god,
a thing.
It's a little funny just because of like, God, you really just say like, hi, and then, but they mean well. But anyway, like if I had to say something to like 11-year-old me, I would definitely very heavily like just kind of reassure myself like, please don't worry, like, you are gonna find, like, the love of your life someday, and you're also going to equally fall in love with yourself someday, because that was something I used to be really insecure about for a long time. Like, I didn't have, like, a lot of, like, boyfriends and girlfriends when I was younger, so, like, that's part of why I really appreciate kind of doing stuff like this now, too, is because, like, I just used to struggle a lot with, like, that kind of the self-love insecurity, but specifically because, like, I didn't really have a lot of romantic partners when I was younger, so I didn't really get to experience a lot of that. And so sometimes I was like, am I just, like, not lovable, like, in that specific way? You know what I mean? Like, am I just, like, doomed to, like, be by myself forever? Which eventually I kind of made peace. I was like, if I am, like, whatever, that is what it is. You don't need to have, like, a soulmate to, you know, fulfill your life or whatever.
But if it's what you want, it is nice to
Yeah, exactly. And I did. So I was like, that was something I struggled with a lot for a really long time, of just feeling like I wasn't, like, ever going to be able to find, like, you know, like, a lifelong partner like that. And so I think, like, in a weird way, doing this kind of also just, it's like, that would be reassuring to, like, younger me, because I would still be able to see myself in a very, like, romantic, like, sultry, like,
desirable,
and,
like, to yourself and other people.
And honestly, even to, like, current me, part of the reason I like doing this so much with you is because I, like, as we've established, I cope with humor for everything, and it's fun, but it's sometimes I know I definitely use it as, like, a shield where I probably shouldn't, and so sometimes I really struggle to, like, take myself seriously, especially in, like, a sexy way. So this is just, like, a nice little reminder, like, yeah, I'm hot, you know, like, it, like, just kind of, like, and, like, actually leaning into it a little bit more instead of being like,
you gotta get the hee-hee-hees.
Which I still do. Like, they're both a part of the package, but it's like, you know, it's a package. It's a buy one, get one free. Exactly. You didn't ask for either, but you're getting both.
If you could say something to someone who is out there wishing they had the courage to do something that would further their self-love journey, whether it's, like, something like a photo shoot, it doesn't have to be, like, anything that would take them to that, like, next level of their self-love journey, what would you say to them?
Oh, I would just say go for it. Because it's one of those, it's cliche as but it's like you just have to, like, you never know until you try kind of thing. Like, you just kind of have to take the plunge at a certain point. And like if you were to try doing something like this and you hate it and you're miserable the whole time and within 5 minutes you're like, this is gross, I want out. Like, okay. But, like, at least you know, like, instead of just kind of being stuck and playing that, like, what, like, oh, I might like it, but I don't know. Like, then you're just kind of stuck in that perpetual, like, what if game forever, which I think is just, like, I would rather have, like, at least given it a shot than, like, not at all. Which, again, wild for me to say as somebody with rampant anxiety about almost everything. But, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so excited. And now you have to pick the photo you want for your background, your digital.
Jesus.
Yeah. Gotta make decisions now.
Well, that's the news. Everybody will see.
Bettina, like, oh, I already had a sign off. Goodbye, audience. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Love Looks Like This Project. If you want to support the project, you can do so for free by subscribing, watching more episodes, sharing this episode with your friends, and following us at all the links in the description. If you really want to support us, we have really pretty merch, art prints, and even a donation link with details with upcoming investments we plan to make on this project. And if you really, really want to support us by telling your story in an episode, make sure you join our self-love group on Facebook, as they always are the first to know about upcoming opportunities and will be the first to know when applications reopen. Please know that you are loved, you are irreplaceable, and beauty is not a price you have to pay to take up space on this earth. See you in the next episode.